In this video, we're going to be taking a look at creating the Automata box design using a top-down modeling approach in Fusion 360, and this would be for Project 425 Automata Design Challenge in the IED curriculum. So one thing I'll show you here is I've already created an Automata design file that I've saved into a project folder, and I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I want to make sure the top level is active, and I'm going to create my components for this here. So I'm going to say new component. I'm going to call this box bottom and say OK. From here, you'll notice it is active, so I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch, and I'm going to choose the bottom plane here. I'm going to choose a center rectangle, click on the origin, and this is going to be a 4 by 5 inch box bottom, and I'm going to say finish sketch, and then I'm going to extrude, and this is going to be a 1/4 inch extrusion. Okay, I'm going to add a physical material in the file here. You're going to find under wood, you have medium density fiberboard, which is, if you're using the PLTW Automata box kit, that's what we're going to have. So you can always grab that, drag it over. It's going to keep the same gray appearance. So, and you can always edit that. For right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go close, and I'm going to add an appearance, and I'm just going to use, just for the sake of this, a pine, so that way you can kind of see some sort of change in the material rather than the box just maybe be gray. So here's the pine material. I'm going to say close, and again, it's going to have all the properties of MDF, but it just has the appearance of pine. So it's the same thing as kind of like wood. When you paint it, the material is still wood, but the appearance may just be painted to a different color. From here, I'm going to go up to the Automata design, the top line, the top level, and I want to activate the component. Make sure the little radio button is checked at the top. And then from here, I want to say new component, because I want to add a box side in here. So we'll call this box right, and I'll say OK. And from here, you'll notice that it activates the box right component. This is kind of grayed out. I can kind of select the edges on the bottom, but you can tell I can't like click on it and select the entire item. So I'm going to go ahead and say create new sketch, and I'm going to choose the side. So either I can choose the principal work planes, or I can choose the faces on the box bottom, and I want to choose this side right here. I'm going to use a 2-point rectangle, and I can actually snap to the corners, which I'm going to do off this top corner, and I'm going to draw in this particular orientation, and I'm going to do a 4 by 4 inch box side, and I'm going to hit enter, because that's the measurements that we have. And I'm going to go ahead and say finish sketch. I'm going to extrude, choose the profile, and I'm going to go back, so I'm going to need a negative 0.25. So the negative just indicates the direction, and I'm going to say OK. I'm going to add the physical material. Now once you have this added in this design, you can just grab up here and apply it over, and I'm going to change the appearance, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So there's our box side, and what I want to do is anytime you create a new component, you always want to go back up to the top level and activate it. Now here's what may happen as you're kind of creating this particular box, is that if, or any other assembly for that matter, if you're using top down, this is a method to do out. So you always want to make sure you're on the top level. But if you forget, or in the case of, like me with my students, they may forget to go through and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and forget, quote unquote, and I'm going to keep the box right activated, and I'm going to say new component. And I want to call this the box left. And I'm going to do the exact same thing but on the other side. And I'm going to say OK. Now here's what happens, is the box bottom is a single cube. Our box right now has 2 kind of cubes stacked on top of each other. This is an indication that we're creating a sub-assembly. So if you're creating a sub-assembly in Fusion, that would be the way you'd want to do it. Now I actually want all these components to be, and here's the component down here, and I want this to be actually out here where I can see it. So if I collapse this, I can't see the box left component. So here's the easiest way to do that, is I'm going to right click on box left, I'm going to say cut, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of left click out here in the white space, and I'm going to right click, and I want to choose here in my options, so I can go ahead and I want to make sure I go back up to the top level before I do this, and then right click, or I can hit Control V, and that pastes it in, and it's, see how it's moving the object, and there's box left in there, and I'm just going to say OK, and that's going to bring that component there. Okay, so let me activate the component. So now I've got the component. Now they all have single cube icons, which is what I want. So little trick there to kind of help you out. But I'm going to go ahead and do like I did before. Create a new sketch. I'm going to choose the side. And the cool thing about this is now I can choose like this corner, and I can actually just snap up here to these corners. It's going to automatically fully constrain the sketch. And what I can do here is I can extrude, and I'm going to, again, a negative 0.25. So all these parts are going to be a 1/4 inch MDF, which is what I'm going to add to this for the appearance and material. Except for I'm going to do the pine as the material since MDF doesn't have anything listed. And then once I'm done, I want to go back up to the top level and activate. So here's my box so far, and I'm going to, since I got the top level activated, I'm going to create a new component. I want to choose this as the box top. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to click the new sketch, and either I can click on the top of the left side or the right side, either one, but I want to click on the very top. From here, 2-point rectangle from the upper corner down to the lower right diagonal there. Say finish sketch, extrude. I want to make sure I get all 3 profiles in this case if they separate, so I'll click on both of those. 0.25, and now we have a box top, and I'm going to apply material and appearance. And let me go back to the top level and activate the component. So here's our Automata box. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move over here to the side, or to the back I should say, and I'm going to create a new component, and I'm going to call this the box back. Say OK, create a new sketch. I'm going to choose the back edge, either of the box, either one of the sides, top or bottom. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle, snap to the corners, finish the sketch, extrude, negative 0.25, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the material and the appearance. Okay, so here's our box, and before we take off here, this is so now you can actually see this would be what your box that your students would be putting together for the Automata design project. And what we're going to end up doing now is, while we're at this, I know there's some different areas we're going to drill some holes in here in the top and in the sides, but what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go ahead and do just a real quick assembly, so that way these box pieces don't come apart. Because right now if I click and drag, they look like they're together, but right now you can tell these kind of move. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that, and I'm going to use something known as built joint. And when I click that, I'm going to choose the rigid joint, and I'm going to select, like here, the box bottom to the box left, and I can go ahead and do that and say OK. As built joint again, box right to the box bottom, top to the side, and I'm just going to kind of go around, and then the back needs to be jointed to the bottom. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the box bottom, and I'm going to choose ground, so that way it pins the bottom part. But now if I click and drag on any of these parts, just as a check, I want to make sure that none of these are going through and moving. So everything looks good, and at this point we're going to end the video on the kind of the box creation, and in the next video we'll take a look at some of the standardized parts we'll add into the Automata, and then later on we'll go through and make some modifications to the box to